Guilherme Nastari. E também com o autor do documentário, o presidente e CEO da Alltech, Mark Lyons. Um ótimo painel a todos!
Vamos tentar em pé ou não?
Acho que temos que trocar.
Quer ficar aqui em pé? Vamos checar se em pé fica bom.
Acho que temos que trocar.
Mas não é 7, não.
Não.
Qual o número aqui?
2. 2.
7.
Chuva.
Pode começar, chuva.
Tá funcionando? Vocês estão ouvindo a gente? Ok. E como é que tá aqui para ficar em pé? Fica em pé?
Está errado a apresentação. É a apresentação dele.
Olha lá em pé, olha lá, Mark. Como é que tá no Mark? Olha ali, ó, na tela ali. Good? Let's make...
Yep.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much to have you here at the Global Agribusiness Festival, Mark. I know that you speak good Portuguese. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself in Portuguese first.
Pode ser, é realmente um grande prazer estar aqui com você. Eu acho que seu inglês está tão fenomenal que pode ser que a gente fale em inglês.
Okay, so then let's use English as our main language. And in this talk show, Mark, I do the talk, but the guy that runs the show is you. We are very excited to listen about the world without cows, Alltech, so let's start.
Então, for us, this has been a really interesting process. Our business is a family business. My father was the founder of the company. I'm the second generation of the company, and our business really focuses on improving nutrition of animals and working with customers in terms of producing the food that our consumers want. But a few years ago, we were looking at a lot of the types of things that I think all of us are. The impact that our industry has, positive and negative. And as the second generation of the company, I felt a certain responsibility to do something a bit different.
And how long your family arrived in Brazil?
My father actually came here in the 1980s, and then was amazed by this country, the potential of the country, and he brought me here. I think I was 11 years old the first time, and wow. I think for an 11-year-old, your first trip to Rio is something you never forget. And certainly, it's become such an important market for us. Our second biggest market is Brazil, and a place that's really close to the hearts of everyone in Alltech.
Okay, so then we have a lot to share about the documentary that you ran. The name is World Without Cows.
Yep.
We are very excited to listen this.
Yeah, so I think we could just go with the slides, Carol, that we have.
Is this one? So
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, this stuff. So when we think about this, one of the most important messages for us within Alltech is that we believe that agriculture has the greatest potential to positively influence the future of our planet. And I think that's not the message that we normally hear. Normally we hear a different message. And I spent my life traveling around the world seeing the positive impact. But what we see is a lot more like this.
Agriculture, forestry, and other land uses produce nearly half of the world's methane emissions.
Governor Jerry Brown today signed a bill regulating emissions from dairy cows. Law requires a 40% reduction in emissions.
The UN's latest report on global hunger shows we're moving backwards.
Well, the Lancet Medical Journal found that reducing red meat intake is one of the most effective ways to curb emission.
So when we look at that, that's a lot of what people see. And it's not the story that it's not the story you grew up in. It's certainly not what I saw.
Yeah, and this put us in a tricky situation in my view, because the society is not understanding the real value of the protein and overall the cattle ecosystem.
Exactly, and the original aspect of this, I thought, okay, we need to get out there, we need to respond. We need to get on social media. We need our producers to be thinking about how they can respond. And I actually realized that's the wrong thing. And this was what made me think about it. I was frustrated. I think a lot of us are kind of frustrated with the lack of storytelling, the lack of communication that we have in agriculture. We just heard it from our colleague from Corteva. But I was watching the Super Bowl. You might have heard about it. It's a big sporting event that takes place in the US every year. And there was an ad. And this ad was talking about oat milk, a different part of agriculture in a way. But this guy was singing a song. And he was singing a song about how great his milk was, because it didn't have cows. And for me, it was really a tipping point. Maybe it was seeing a guy that wrote his own song who's a CEO.
Wow, wow, no cow, no, wow, wow, no cow.
And he really thought that was great, and I thought that was terrible. And I thought, man, we got to do something about this. And maybe it was because it was in the pandemic, but I decided, you know what, my father, he got to do a lot of crazy things. I think you have the same situation. I want to try some crazy things as well. And so we decided to go a little bit further. And we sent 2 of our colleagues, Brandon and Michelle, around the globe. They went to 20 different countries, and they went around the world with one simple question: are we better off in a world without cows?
And it's amazing because when you first read World Without Cows, drive you to maybe another side of the story, which is very clever. And I understand your motivation coming from eggs as well, that world with no cows is something that is not part of our world, but most of this marketing can be very damage a lot of what we have been building together.
It can be really negative, and really, as we came in today, you know, some people were looking at our shirts and they were looking at the back and this question: are we better off in a world without cows? And we met a gentleman outside, and he said, you know, if it wasn't for the question mark, you would have been in trouble. And
true.
He said, are you activists? And I said, no. And then I realized, yes, we actually are activists. We are pro-ag activists. We are wanting to promote our industry, and I think we can do that through communicating our great positive message, but doing it in a way that consumers find interesting.
And here, organizing Global Agribusiness Festival in São Paulo, which is the largest Latin city, arriving with 100 horses, I think is the same mood as you got when you decided to build the World Without Cows.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, we've known each other a short amount of time, but immediately when we met, we thought we have the same vision. You know, what you're doing in GAF, you are bringing the consumers closer to our industry. And that's exactly what we're trying to do now with this film. So our colleagues traveled around the world for 3 years. They went to over 40 different locations filming. They were looking for facts. They were looking for the science behind the story and making sure that we could keep moving ahead. And they thought about some things, and I think they put a great structure around this. They realized that around the world, while we have so much diversity in our cultures, so much diversity in our populations, everything kind of comes down to the same things. It's culture and economy, it's the importance of our industry in terms of nutrition, and of course, impact on the climate, which is the thing that a lot of people are thinking about.
Yeah, and then with this image from Africa, here we can see the dependence of cattle, the ranch, in the families, but not only in poor regions, but all over. The influence is huge. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that was really one of the key things we figured out, and I think you could see it from this clip. You know, trying to give you a little bit of a sense of the film.
There is a big number of people in the world that rely on cattle for their livelihoods. You take out those cows, then you've actually damaged the whole livelihoods for these people.
And so I think what we found was so many different people, over 1 billion people are working in agriculture directly or indirectly. And that the basis of our industry really is supporting this growing population. We're probably going to be closer to 10 billion people, you know, relatively soon, within hopefully many of our lifespans. And so we're going to be adding almost 2 billion people to our planet, but those people are already protein insecure. So in this country, we have the opportunity to have tremendous beef production, Ireland as well, US of course, but so much of our population is actually protein insecure, and from a scientific perspective, from a nutritional perspective, from a fitness perspective, we're realizing that protein coming from animals is really important.
Yeah, really important, and with this size of the population, it's going to be a tricky and maybe a trap for us to sort this. So few regions have the responsibility to help to feed the other part, which is growing very fast.
Absolutely. So you know, one of the senses we got to was really the importance of a few places, but that importance of protein, and I think we saw this very much in the story from India.
A world without cows to us is a world without protein for bulk of India. Because of the religious sensitivity involved around being a vegetarian, even the government schools provide a glass of milk to every child.
Amul Dairy is actually specially producing it for school children with some additional micronutrients.
For many of these kids, this milk is the only protein they'll get all day long.
It is a major public health issue in our country. Although there is some improvement, nutritional deficiency is a big problem in children. So it is proving to be an important input into their daily diet and also health, which is leading to improvement in the educational standard of the school also after the project has started.
So I think from there you can see something pretty cool. And one thing that really impacted me when we went to India was this. You know, we see the images of the kids, but something that I think is really the opportunity to be in business, to be closer to these communities, is the impact. Amul Dairy is a great supporter, great partner of ours, a company that has really global ambitions. But the project we did with them actually had nothing to do just with the milk. It had to do with bathrooms. Now that sounds a bit strange to say, but what you can see here is girls who are going to school all day today because a bathroom was put in their school. Before, their parents wouldn't let them stay. They only stayed for half a day because they didn't want them using the same bathroom as boys. So you can just think, with a simple project being connected and having partnerships, you can actually double the education of these girls in rural parts of India that really, really need it. And so it's interesting, these types of things, and really inspiring, I think, in terms of what partnerships can do and conversations like this.
Mark, you know, seeing this video now in India, I can understand the motivation of the name of the movie, World Without Cows. Imagine without this milk, a small protein quota per day. Imagine without the cows that provide this for these children, and also hygienic things that you mentioned about sanitary and bathrooms and as well.
Yeah.
When it comes to cattle, there are two countries that really count, and that's Brazil and India. These two countries have more cattle than the rest of the world combined.
So we bring this a little bit back closer to home. You know, when you look at India, they have a massive cow population, very low productivity. They have their own challenges. You know, feeding their population is a major challenge. Brazil has a different responsibility. Brazil is, of course, has the largest herd in the world, and it also plays a totally different role. Of course, initially to feed its own population, but also, as you know even better, you think of the global trade, the types of things that we see around the world. Brazil has a very important role in feeding that growing population.
And thanks God, we are not using yet a massive part of the area. Brazil is 850 million hectares, 320 are arable lands. We use more or less 90 to 100 to produce crops, and another 200 to 120 to produce cattle. So a lot to develop. Intensification on cattle in Brazil. We have a friend that you shown his farm here, which is one of the most beautiful in Brazil.
And so I think it's really important, you know, this intensification, the conversations that are happening, the development that's happening is going to be a big part of where we go. And so the largest commercial cattle herd in the world, but really one that we can continue to see is continuing to develop. And so to think about this issue, though, you know, we hear a lot about a couple of things. We hear about greenhouse gases, and we hear about that is the big issue, you know, methane. We had the COP a few years ago talking about methane. Of course, we have the COP this year in Belém. What's really, I think, interesting within this is that the nutrients that we get from our cows are so critical, but we're also using a lot of materials that we can't use for anything else. 87% of what we feed in intensive systems to cattle, to dairy animals, can't have any other use. And if we left it to microorganisms to break down, the greenhouse gas emissions could be 10 to 15 times higher.
Crazy.
So the cow is actually doing a job for us and for the planet. And that's certainly not the message we hear. And so these materials that would have been otherwise not used are moved into high quality proteins that we can use.
And this is one of the reasons that is important to build projects like this one, to spread this type of information, technically, not just rumors or ideally things, but yes, it's very impressive.
And so with that, you know, one of the other aspects is we hear a lot about this methane question. And what we wanted to do is dig a little bit deeper. And so we have a partnership with UC Davis, the Clear Center, Professor Frank Mitloehner, and he talks about how methane is actually only with us for a short amount of time. Then it breaks down into CO2. And I think it's really good animation that our team did to explain a little bit
How
about
does
this.
CO2 warm the planet? Well, the analogy for CO2 is a bathtub that has only a faucet but no drain. If we turn the faucet on normal, water goes in, water levels rise. If you turn it on low, water levels still rise, slower, but they still rise. If you turn it on all the way, they rise very fast. Every time we burn fossil fuel, we add additional warming to our planet, temperatures rise. Now comes the methane analogy. Here you have a bathtub with a faucet and you have a drain, and the drain is always open. This is really important. The drain is always open. The drain stands for the so-called atmospheric removal of methane. If you turn the faucet on normal, then you put water in, but an equal amount flows out, and as a result, the level stays stable. That's what's happening with constant herds of cattle. A constant herd of cattle will produce a constant amount of methane, and that leads to a constant amount of warming. So if you turn the faucet on normal, an equal amount of water that goes in comes out through the drain. If you turn the faucet on low, but the drain is open, then you put less water into the bathtub than you let go of. And that means the levels can go down. That means if we learn to reduce methane, we can reduce warming.
And so I think from that you can see every improvement we make, which keeps happening in our industry, it means that we can actually have a cooling effect. We can actually be reducing the impact that we have. And so when we think about projects that are reducing the cost of food, we often are also making that food more efficiently produced. We're using less grain, often less land, less water. And so that actually means that we can be producing more with less, and overall, our industry, while it does pollute, has the potential to pollute less as we become more efficient. A lot of industries don't have that opportunity, and I think that should fill us with optimism.
Mark, so it's all about efficiency. So all the technology applied to get a better cattle production will help us, not instead of what marketing is saying that is not helping.
Exactly, I think it's totally aligned. And it's again our job to communicate. It's our job to be open to the challenges and to also say we can improve more, and we will. But that's certainly the direction, and I think that the types of work that we're doing, not just the science, but the communication of the science, building our website so that all the information is there in a transparent way, and people, consumers in particular, can access that. That's a big part of our project. You mentioned a minute ago land, and I think this is a fascinating topic. I love the statistics you shared with us. And we also put this animation together. Again, the entire film done by Alltech people, including the animation. And again, Professor Frank Mitloehner talking a little bit about the world, I think in a really interesting way.
Imagine this sheet of paper, regular sheet of paper, being the entire surface of the Earth. And I'll fold this sheet of paper, and I'll fold it twice, until it's roughly postcard size. What you see now is all the land in the world, the rest is water and ice. This here is my business card, and the equivalent amount of land of my business card is all agricultural land. So this is all land in the world, this is all agricultural land in the world. The difference between these two are forests and deserts and so on. So now I take my business card and I fold it into one piece, that's 2/3, and the other piece, that's 1/3 its original size, and then I rip my own business card into pieces. The larger of the two pieces is all agricultural land that is considered marginal agricultural land. That means it's too rocky, too hilly, not fertile enough. For whatever reasons, you cannot grow crops there. Marginal land. What do we do with this land currently? 2/3 of all agricultural land, what do we do with it currently? We graze livestock. The remainder of my business card, the 1/3, is all arable land in the world. And here we can grow crops, any crops, for human or animal consumption. That is how limited we are with respect to our natural resources to feed people.
So that really gives you a sense, you know, this marginal land, we use it for cattle. We can't use it for anything else. In the film, we actually go in and we explore a study in the UK where they've been working now for 8 years, trying to use marginal land and try to produce something with it.
Yeah, the opportunity is huge. Just comparing part of the figures that we share, Brazil is 850 million hectares. We are using only 320, which is our arable land available. And opportunities around to increase this efficiency, bringing more technology to increase the strength to decrease CO2 emissions.
Absolutely, and I think this, you know, this mission that we created a few years ago, we talk about working together for a planet of plenty, producing enough food. I don't think there's a more important country in the world than this one. Este porque eu falo português, but it's also because we really want to make sure that, you know, this is a place that we are present and that we're supporting the industry, because where are you going to find a place that, again, can produce food for Europe, can produce food for Asia, can produce food at the highest quality that's possible, but the communication for Brazil outside is a huge responsibility. I feel it personally. I feel that I am an ambassador for Brazil to the outside, because we've got to tell a better story for Brazil. This is one of our ideas, maybe a world without cows. What about the next movie, A World Without Brazil?
And this is a very good superpower weapon that we have, a gringo that understands us very well. And you know something about Brazil, although Brazil became a very strong exporter, but it's very new. It's only 50 years.
Yeah.
66% of the area in Brazil, Mark, is forest. And we became top 3 of everything, but with 63% as real forest, not planted areas. So
and I would even say, you know, putting up my Irish passport, everyone thinks about Ireland as green. Our forests, none of them are virgin. They're all replanted.
Yeah, so biodiversity is in Brazil. Not only Amazon, all the other biomes as well.
So we care about Brazil so much. We just had our storytellers, as I call them, back here with us. They spent 3 weeks in Brazil capturing more stories. So we don't want to just stop with the 84 minutes of the documentary. We also wanted to go further. And so they have been able to go to some locations that we couldn't cover in the film. They went back to some of the previous locations. Victor Campanelli, Andrea Peroni, friends of ours, they were able to go there, capture more information. And so we don't want the story to stop there. We want to continue because there's so much more that we need to be doing. And I think some of the images and some of the projects that we see, a project here, which is a silvopasture project, Daniel Wolf, a friend of ours, again here in Brazil, is such an amazing concept and something that is possible here, where you're actually bringing in the forest, the crops, the animals all together.
Bringing efficiency not only from cattle, but from all the other crops together in consortium.
Absolutely, it's really, really interesting. So Brazil is important to us. It's our second largest market. We have 1,500 colleagues here. We have some of them right up there with their World Without Cows shirt. If you have a question, yes, they're activists. They're activists for you. But one of the projects that I'm most interested in is probably what we just achieved. We brought together not just Alltech, Guabi, but also a business that came from Spain, which we call Idiagro. This business studies soil. It studies what's happening in the soil, and we are actually starting to change so that we are feeding our animals to feed the soil. And so if we can feed the animals the right things, we can actually be capturing more carbon in the soil, and we can be monitoring and measuring this. And our hope is that ultimately producers actually can get paid for this.
And bringing more revenue for the producers, which are not yet calculated or captured.
Absolutely, that these producers aren't necessarily getting credit for the good work that is possible. So it's this whole idea of, you know, making one system, and I think it's probably the most important point in World Without Cows. We only think about the cow. We don't realize the cow is part of an ecosystem, and what we're trying to do is create the healthiest ecosystem possible, and that's ultimately, you know, what we can do. And what I hope someday is the headline when you pick up the newspaper or turn on the television, and is that we are better off with our cows. We actually capture more carbon with our cows than without them.
Yeah, and for sure, it's all about information, technical discussions, and for sure, World Without Cows is bringing this to us, civilians, and this is what you're doing is very important for the community. I think not only one region to the other, but as an agricultural community overall.
So one of the projects that we're really hoping to develop is exactly what we have in Florida. And so the film kind of tells you this story. It starts in Kenya, it goes to India, it goes to US, Brazil, but then it brings you to the future and where we might see things. And this is an example of, I think, a system that could be created here in Brazil, where they are measuring that soil and they're measuring what's happening.
What we've found is that cattle can change the way plants grow, and they cause them to invest in their roots, and then the roots can stimulate microbes, and those are two drivers of soil carbon. So there's more carbon taken up in a grazed ecosystem than an ungrazed.
And so this is a pretty exciting thing. I never even thought about it. You know, if somebody's coming along and eating the top of the plant's actually saying, hey, something's happening here. I need to put more carbon into the soil. I have to grow my roots deeper, and that has a major, major impact.
And the carbon capture in the soil is much bigger than on top of the soil. Huh?
Absolutely. So, Ganema, I wanted to say thank you. You know, our project is actually here to expand the conversation, to get the word out. We hope that even with our shirts, we'll be talking to some people during the concerts and sharing with them more of the message. And it's exactly this, you know, expanding the discussion, talking to people who are not aware of our sector. And so it's great to have you as a partner with World Without Cows.
Mark, thank you very much. It's a great honor to have you here. And you know, all your dreams and visions are very important for us here in Brazil. Thank you for the symbol I will start to use today. And I hope this is just the beginning of this long-term partnership between World Agribusiness Forum, Global Agribusiness Forum, and World Without Cows.
Absolutely, I think so. And so all of you, we need your help. We did another bit of a crazy thing. We took our documentary, we created a company, and we gave the documentary to the company. And we hope that this business will continue to develop these. That is actually something where people can actually add to what we're putting forward. So we have partners who are helping to fund these activities. And we, of course, more than anything, would love to have you guys follow us. We have a Planet of Plenty Brazil Instagram account. We've been posting a lot of stuff, a lot of fun things happening today. And so we'd love to have you supporting us. And also, we will be showing the World Without Cows documentary at the COP. We have a cinema there. And so it'll be a great opportunity to get that message to a really important audience. The world will be looking at Brazil. We need to be giving them the facts. We need to be giving the stories, and a great, great Brazilian story that we can capture.
Mark, one question. If we want to see the film, how should we wait or go to a platform? How it works?
So we were just at the Milk Summit. I think some people were there. They were able to see it. We're showing the film in private events. We're also showing it at film festivals. So there's a lot of those activities. But we are now looking at where we go next in terms of streaming and opportunities there. But if you really, really want to see it, find somebody with one of these shirts, give them your email, and we'll try and set up an event with you, or we'll try and find a way to get it to you in the best way possible.
Again, thank you very much for all your support, for your team. Very special. Although we met not that long, feels that we know each other for a long time.
I agree.
Thank you very much. Guys, a round of applause. Here, Mark Lyons bringing to us the World Without Cows.
There we go.
Very special, Mark.
Mais uma foto, mais uma.
Vamos fazer uma foto. Let's take a picture, guys.
Bacana.
Muito legal. Obrigado.
Legal.